Wonderful. Okay. Leslie, you want to get us kicked off here?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Greetings from I guess we're all home, right? I'm calling you from Sarasota, Florida, and I've got my peeps out in California, and we're delighted to welcome you to WomanUP. This was originally going to be WomanUP New England in Boston, and of course, as events have transpired over the last couple of months and weeks, that has been canceled, and in its place, we put together a 2-hour program that I think you're going to find very valuable. We want to talk about kind of the number one thing, which is taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, being healthy. And then the second component is really navigating this environment through leadership and what you need to know about what's happening and how you stay current, what resources are available to you. So I think we put together a fairly dynamic agenda that's really tailored towards what is going on right now. And I'm watching CNBC out of the corner of my eye because there's a circuit breaker now on Wall Street because the trading got too intense. So this is just a very rocky time. So I just want to welcome all of you. I hope you get a lot out of it. We're interested in your questions, and we'll have a great morning together.
Wonderful, Leslie. Thank you. So what's happening in California in terms of the market, and California is a proxy for the United States. And so since we have our chief economist and brain power here on our Facebook Live, I wanted to hear a little bit about what our WomanUP community can try to plan and expect.
Well, I don't think it's any secret that we're headed into a recession of some kind. The forecasts are clearly uncertain. It really depends on how long this lasts. In Washington, they are crafting, it looks like a minimum of $1 trillion stimulus, including direct payments to some Americans of $1,000. It may be twice. I mean, they're still hammering out details as we speak. So there's going to be a huge stimulus, and the Fed is doing everything it can, using every tool, weapon in its arsenal to keep liquidity flowing and keep the credit markets moving. All that being said, none of that addresses the major issue right now, which is the coronavirus, the potential for it to be getting a lot worse before it gets better, and the burden that the healthcare system is experiencing in terms of not having enough supplies, not having enough hospital beds, and all of those things. What does that mean for real estate? It means that a lot of clients are going to be operating in a world of uncertainty and a world of fear. And we know that when that happens, people tend to pull back and adopt a wait and see attitude. So when you're doing any kind of a forecast, and we've essentially done 3 scenarios, kind of best case, worst case, and most likely, based on how long until the virus peaks and we're in a recovery period, and what that means for economic growth. In the first quarter, we may have actually end up being negative in the first quarter, not quite sure, but definitely negative in the second, likely negative in the third, with recovery in the fourth. And what that means for people's portfolio, what that means for people's jobs. We've got the unemployment claims coming out in the next day or two, and the leading indicator of that, which is looking on Google for how many people are searching for filing an unemployment claim, that has peaked. That has just skyrocketed with a hockey stick in the last week. So we are expecting that data to be fairly negative in a big way. The LA Times published a poll this morning where 18% of the respondents said that they were either experiencing shorter hours or even a layoff. So that's the issue. You know, low interest rates are typically very positive for the real estate industry. A volatile stock market is typically very positive for the real estate industry. But when you go into a fear-dominated mode where people aren't sure they're going to be employed the next month, well, low rates aren't going to help them. When sellers are afraid to have people walk through their houses at an open house, that's a problem. So on the positive side, I think this is really going to, I don't know if jumpstart's the right word, but accelerate our entire industry into a virtual digital mode of doing business. And while we'll revert back a little bit when it's safe to do so, I think everybody's going to get used to tools that they've had available for quite some time, but really haven't been forced to deal with. And I think the thing to keep in mind that this is probably the largest short-term exogenous shock that the economy has ever experienced, but it is a shock. It is not 2007 and 2008 where there were underlying imbalances in the economy that imploded. So anyway, yes,
Good
Deborah?
news.
That's so important. That's such an important point. Like, we will get through this. This isn't forever. It's a blip. It's not an anchor.
No.
It's not an anchor.
No.
Oh, Leslie, I love that.
It's definitely temporary. We will get through it, but it's rough and uncertain going for a little while.
Which is why we're here today, right?
Yes.
Right.
Well, and I think, that's the interesting thing when we were talking about bringing everyone together in such an uncertain time, and is it the right thing to do? And is it respectful of everyone's time? And I think we've learned that in uncertain times, we need the importance of human community and connection. And we now, never before, have the ability, like we do right now, to do these types of things, to really get connected and stay informed and guide each other through what we've experienced so far, and hopefully be able to share some best practices throughout each one of the conversations today. So without further ado, what I think we should do is shift over to Tara-Nicholle and have her give us some of her power, speak into us, and set some intentions. So let me bring her in. Oh, I see her big smile in the green room. Ooh, hold on, here we go. Let's see. There she is. Oh,
Hi.
I can't hear you. There. She has an assistant in there somewhere, so maybe a button was pushed. Let's see. Hold on. Let me look on my side.
I saw hands.
Let's see.
Go. Oh, look at the beautiful.
Okay.
I hear something. We're good.
You can hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yes. So I appreciate, first of all, I got to know Leslie in the last recession.
Right.
Actually, I run a company called Soul Tour, which helps women, high achieving women and entrepreneurs maintain inner well-being so they can thrive in every area of their lives, even when I don't know if I can say this shit hits the fan, but it actually did hit the fan, guys. Right? So I think it's really clear why that's important right now. I also think that's how I first met Leslie. I was a spokesperson for Trulia in the Great Recession in 2008 to 2010. So I have been in real estate through these times. We make it through these times. And I am here to help just set some, the most powerful force in this universe is a clear and unresisted intention. So I am here to help set some intentions for what we can get out of the day today and for the next season of our world, in which, yes, this is it's a great reset. This is a great reset. We'll be resetting on digital. We'll be resetting with really cute assistants. Come on.
Amen. Come on now.
This is 2-year-old London. She is my granddaughter, and her nose is really runny right now. So I'm going to try to address that. This is our new normal for a while, guys. We don't actually know exactly how this is going to play out. It's uncertain. And we still get to enjoy our lives and our families and our children and each other through Facebook, through, Zoom, like all of these things that actually weren't as prevalent or available. Well, we've never had this thing where we had to stay inside, but weren't, available in any other time in history. So we get to appreciate and connect with each other that way. So let me just do this. Let me just ask everybody, wherever you're sat, whether you have Bailey's or coffee, or Bailey's in your coffee, or a can of wine, or, in fact, it's interesting. I actually have been drinking way less because I find that I enjoy just the alertness right now, the ability to be present in these precious moments with this child right now. So whatever you got going on, it's all good. It's all right. It's all right. Okay. So just come into this chair, wherever you're sat. I want you to, oh dear. I'm sorry, buddy. I want you to, this is actually how a lot of the market feels right now.
Well, I think, let's just speak to this for a second, Tara-Nicholle, because this is real. This is what so many of the men and the women in our community, this is it. This is what they're trying to work through. And it's okay.
What has come to me in this season, in this last, so we've been sheltered in place essentially. This is our 5th day. So for 5 days, we basically have not seen other humans except at the park.
Yes.
I know. Do you want to go? And I'm gonna get you a hug. Yeah. Okay, bring it to me and I'll help you. Okay, go bring it to me. Go get it and bring it to me.
Well, and I think that the power of all of this is that we are all learning. We're learning empathy. We're learning patience.
Yes.
We're learning new things. We're learning how to be in this new state of normal that we've got now.
And I'm learning how to breathe.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's funny because I don't think most people know how to breathe. I was just talking with someone about that. I think most of the time I'm going to guide you through this and snack her up, feed the meter.
Snack and feed, snack and breathe, snack and breathe.
This is one strategy I've been encouraging people to use is to feed your own meter regularly.
Oh, I love that.
Feed the baby's meters regularly, right? Like, keep them fed. And I'm one of those people, you guys know me, I'm all about the no screen time and the whatever. I was talking with literally a Zen Buddhist monk friend of mine who was like, not now. If she needs she needs a little screen time so you can have a moment to collect, listen to your own thoughts, right? So good, to reply to one email. It's all good. Priority is she's healthy, she's well, she's fed, you're healthy, you're well, you're fed. If that's good, we'll deal with screen time. It's fine. So feeding the meter of yourself is an important, actually that's an intention you could set for this whole time, is just to feed the meter of yourself and the beings. I say beings because I have a couple dogs. I care for a lot of small mammals. Feed the meter of the beings with attention, not just with a little bit. She's doing this now because she's wanting my attention. It's very diverted. Right. So feed the meter of yourself. What do you need? What do you normally do for self-care? If you can, take the pieces of what you normally do for self-care that feel like they are a gift that you give yourself, and give yourself more of that, even including, and maybe that's just space. Maybe that's walks. Maybe that's grace. Maybe that's kindness. Maybe that's not trying to boil the ocean of figuring out the future of the whole economy and the business. I mean, listen, Leslie's working on it. Nobody better be working on it. Literally. You can't, we don't know what it's going to look like. We do know it won't be forever. And I know that there are people who come out of every economic climate thriving, right? And sort of key to being that kind of a being is staying open, receptive, as relaxed as you can, as nourished as you can. And you don't necessarily get there. In the real estate world, we are beings of action. That's just who we are. We are beings of momentum. We take care of it. We are fixers. We want to be all of these things for our clients. And the one thing I will say on that is you cannot help someone have an experience you are not having. You can't create calm from panic. Okay. You can't help them feel secure if you're like, woo, in panic mode. So there's a little bit of this great reset requiring of us to be in this present moment, maybe much more than we've ever needed to be before.
Yes.
Right? Just come back into this present moment 1,000,000 times a day, if that's what you need to do. All of your fear, all of your anxiety lives in the past or in the future, right? That's when you hear people talk about their fears and their anxieties, it's always about what could happen or what did happen the last time. So if you can come into this present moment over and over again, and you do that by playing with dogs and babies, you do that by taking walks, you do that by coming onto virtual happy hours and virtual coffees and things like this, where you can count on someone to speak life into you and pour good things into you. I'll end here with just saying, so set that intention for yourself right now to stay nourished, to stay grounded, literally to feel your butt in the seat wherever you're sat, and to take good breaths. And a good breath is not a deep breath you like take up into your head. A good breath is a breath that fills up as much of the real estate between your neck and your pelvis as possible on every inhale, right? And then just empty your lungs on your exhale.
So good.
Yeah, that is not at all what I had planned to say. And that is 100% of how this is gonna be. We're just gonna do what we do and say what Spirit makes us to say.
Oh my goodness, Tara, I appreciate the way I feel right now. And I know that with being the wrangler of the behind the scenes things happening here, I was still able to feel that. And so I know that the community is really blessed by what you just shared. And I love that it isn't what you had planned.
At all.
Like
I had a list of intentions. It was like 1, 2.
So to speak to that, we will drop in. There are some really amazing opportunities to get connected to Tara-Nicholle in this season. She shared 3 really great ways to get connected with her online. So I'm going to drop those links into the comments. But get more of this woman into your lives.
Yeah. And you know what? I actually just put up a free program last night. I may drop some stuff in there too. That's just like free stuff. I'm like, free stuff, because we just need to be connected now.
Yes.
So yeah. And also all of the programs that Deb has dropped into the chat are programs we're enrolling in right now, because people are specifically looking to treat this almost as monk mode. I have extra time. I have a passion project I've been putting off. How can I spend this time, making some progress? So those are what they are. And we'll offer a big 40% discount to anyone using code WomanUP.
Love it.
Thank you so much.
I don't discount stuff, so this is a big deal. Like it really is actually.
I love it. I love it. Thank you
guys.
so much. Thank you, Ms. London, for joining us as well, and reminding us. Yeah, I think reminding us that we're all in this together. We're all going through learning this new way, and I think it's so appropriate. That is what kicked us off. So thank you, my dear.
It made me feel good. For
We'll,
sure.
we'll see you in the stream.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
Good.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, that was everything I could have imagined and more.
It was great. To have the baby just hanging out and screaming and crying made me feel so good about my kids, just coming in on a work chat.
Yeah.
It just happens.
It's real.
It's today's reality.
It is today's reality. So our next guest is Tami Vanel. And I know that we're super excited to bring her in. I'm going to bring her into the stream as to make sure that everything is going on her side. So for those of you who don't know Tami, she is the CEO of Exit Realty. And as we get her in here,
Me, if
okay,
that helps.
that would be
You
really
know,
awesome.
she's, first of all, she's spoken at our WomanUP conferences. She is a well-known speaker, and there's my little one in the background. She's a well-known speaker in the industry. She's so incredibly smart. Her agents absolutely adore her, and Exit Realty is a huge international company. And one of her things she is really proud of, and I learned about her, is that she's a black belt in Taekwondo. She's also a wife, a mother of 3, and a grandmother of 3. And she believes in her North Star. You know, that she says the North Star has always been a guide for her.
Yes.
And she's here to talk a little bit about finding your true north. And Jules, Jules is right here. She's still in pajamas.
Where's my
Let's see. Tami, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but we can't see you. Your screen's white.
It's downstairs.
Huh.
In the
I
light.
can see me on my screen.
In
That's strange. Let me see if there's something that I can
By your left.
do to. Is it a Logicam? Logicam. Can you see me
Where
now?
your laptop would be.
Not yet. Keep clicking. It looks like maybe a cap is off on a camera, maybe, or because it's pure white.
Easy.
So,
Okay.
while they're getting it figured out on their side, I'm actually going to mute as they're trying to get that figured out over there so that they can do their thing. You know, we would not be able to do things like this without our sponsors. And so as we're getting that figured out, let's talk about the sponsors who have signed on and those we're in conversations with. Obviously, we've promoted a lot that Exit is a huge sponsor for us this year. They're a diamond level sponsor, right. And they were one of 2, including Leading Edge Real Estate, that really stepped up to help us plan and put on the Boston event, which we postponed and then flipped into a Facebook Live event. So thanks so much to Exit, to Leading Edge, Realtor.com as well. We've got Engel & Volkers International, and then, of course, our very own wavemaker, Sandra Miller of Engel & Volkers in Santa Monica. We've got Realogy coming on board again this year. We've got Side coming on board. You know, we also have immense support from the Inman News team.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
They're amazing.
Wow. Just not only were they super supportive of us in New York and helped us bring amazing people into the conversations with us there, we actually have had our first conversation with them about Inman Vegas in July. And so, you know, we are all believing that we are going to be together in Vegas in July, and really excited to
setting that intention.
Yeah, setting that intention, Vegas. It's not that it's my favorite city, but it is my favorite people. So
that's right. That's right. We want to be there. We want this to have passed, and we want to, you know, go back to some normalcy with our people.
Yes, with our people. So we've got all of those. We've got that the opportunity that's coming in, and I also, you know, I want to also give a shout out to the California Association of Realtors. I mean, we don't talk about them as a sponsor because it's their initiative. However, there is such visionary leadership at CAR, from Joel to Leslie to you, Sarah, that continue to really shine a light on this movement and other initiatives inside the organization. And so I think if if anybody out there is thinking, man, I'm ready to step in, I'm ready to lean in, you can join us as a sponsor. Go to IamWomanUp.com. You'll see the button there. It's become a partner with us. Now's the time to have those conversations, because we all got time.
Yeah,
We got time
we
to talk
sure
about
do.
it.
Well, it is a time for reset, right? I told the team, I said, now is the time to, just dig in and reach out to people and set some priorities and switch priorities if
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah. Well, I'm feeling like we may need to have Tami go on a little bit later. Looks like they're still having some issues with their camera. So
Yeah. We're
let's,
flexible.
yeah, oh
That's
goodness,
how we roll.
we are totally flexible. I actually see Linda O is in the green room. So let's bring Linda O in. So Sarah, if you want to get her information ready and introduce her, I will
Yes.
scoot things around and we will we'll roll. Hold on.
Linda. I'm just want to find her info. Linda is going to talk about being an accidental CEO. Wait, can you hear me? Okay.
I can.
Oh, hi, Linda. So Linda O, and I will not pronounce her name, but she will for us. She's a daring, provocative, edgy in her presentations and how she drives the real estate industry. She's a sassy redhead. She's confronting the standard real estate practices by turning some assumptions upside down. And so, Linda, are you on? Oh, yay, you're on. Hi.
Hey. Hey there, Linda Okaneski. Good pivot. And in this environment, we have to be great at pivoting, don't we?
That's absolutely on point. That's absolutely on point. So I have a few questions for you, but first of all, what's the accidental CEO? Tell us about that.
Well, I think I'm the last person on earth that expected to be the CEO of one of the largest companies, real estate companies in New England. A little bit of background, grew up very modestly. I was the ultimate nerd. I was the one that when I got into college was surrounded by so many people that seemed to have so much more education, came from all these prestigious schools that, they had Amex cars and BMWs. I thought, what the hell am I doing here? I couldn't raise my hand to answer a question in class. And I went on I was always social, but no one would have picked me to be someone who's speaking or leading. One of my favorite stories is I ran an override campaign to raise taxes, and I kind of volunteered for the job. And my very first time I ever had to speak in public, it was about 8 people in a living room. I sweated through my clothes like I'd been in a Bikram yoga class. I was shaking so violently. You know how you're that nervous? I think Jerry Seinfeld says that's the number one fear is public speaking. Next to death,
yeah.
you'd rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy. you know, that, for me to be in this position now is crazy. So I thought, how did I get here? What drove this? What's the change? What happens to a young, good Catholic girl that follows all of the rules and, steps out to find herself here?
So the accidental CEO of leading edge real estate. Here we are. Here we are.
Doing this gave me some time to reflect. And I thought, what is it that makes a difference? Why do some people just drive change? Why do some people rise to the top? So I've got 5 things I was going to share.
Go for it. Yeah,
Okay.
let's do it.
Do this.
So we'll do it. So when I looked back, I thought, what was like those influential things in your childhood, right? That really did something. Did you ever read Cheaper by the Dozen? Do you remember the whole concept of Cheaper by the Dozen? This guy is doing motion study. He wants to do things more effectively. He wants to do things much more efficiently. And he looks at the world as if everything could be done better. And if you grow up with that kind of as an influence and you look, how can you make everything around you better?
Yeah.
I think in a way, I never planned, I didn't set goals to run a real estate company. None of that. I mean, I was, you know, like so many people, you know, one of the things we talk about Women Up is people are trying to overcome their challenges.
Yeah.
And there isn't anybody in the audience that hasn't had really crappy, horrible things happen to them. You know, I had my share. Single mother of 3, sole supporter, a son in high school who had a stroke. I was just sued for $20 million by a large franchisor who would like to bury me. You know, how do you get through those things? How do you weather those things? I think part of it is that you remain calm. We all know that. We talk about breathing, but no one is least zen than me. But I have learned, right? But I have learned to be super zen, right? And in that, don't let things bother you. You know, there's times to really jump up and down and worry,
Yeah.
but you just have to get through things. So I'm going to take you through my 5 little things that I think got me to where I am. Total accidental CEO. And for those who have challenges, I mean, in our audience here today, we have people who, if they're not depressed, they know someone who's in deep depression. They are surrounded by people with drug and alcohol problems. They are dealing with divorce, ugliness at home, financial strain. Everybody's got stuff. And we're going into a time right now when that uncertainty that we've been talking about is going to be heightened, maybe like we've never seen before in our life. The kind of heightened that the people during World War II, when they were on rations and had to live a fundamentally different kind of life, that's what's in store. And we have to think really clearly about how we make decisions. So here's my 5 things. First, time is a terrible thing to waste. And if I look at where I am now, you're talking about the nerd who doesn't own a TV, right? I'm on social media judiciously. But what do I do with my time? I'll tell you one thing I have no time for is unnecessary drama.
Amen.
That is something that brings everyone down. When you are a person that just doesn't tolerate drama, isn't into gossip, doesn't fuel it, doesn't tolerate it around you, you are looked at as a leader. You're going to get elevated. And so that's just, you know.
That's so beautiful, Linda. Let me ask you a question. How did you get to that point where, like, what is a practical tip, right, that helps you step away from that? I think that what we hear a lot in the community is, you know, no drama llamas, no drama mamas. Like, I think many of us seek to not be that. So when someone comes up to you with those fear-filled or those gossip-filled conversations starters, how do you stop it?
First of all, you just don't feed it, right? And,
yes.
You know, and if you have a problem with so-and-so, you should really talk to them because I can't help you with it. Matter of fact, when my agents come to me to complain about something, but say, you know, you don't tell them I said this. Well, how the hell am I supposed to do anything about it? I think we have to be brave enough to confront the people we have issues with. And by the way, it's kind. If there's something that's wrong, people will appreciate if you've been kind to them and you've shown them love in the past and concern. They want to be better people. I was going to get to that later, but one of the things is I like everybody. I give everyone a second chance. Everyone deserves, everyone has flaws. And I think the reason I'm so forgiving of everyone is I have a whole batch of my own. You know, I need people to come to me with a lot of grace all the time. Right? So if you want to talk about leadership, it's about growing other people. And you can't do that unless you're willing to have the hard conversations, unless you're willing to confront sounds like a bad word, but care enough to make them better. And I think that's leadership.
That's so beautiful. And I think it's the mindset shift, right? From it, there is a level of sometimes we have to lead in a way that makes the other person feel a little uncomfortable because we are shining a light on something that needs to be shifted for them, right? And that's okay.
But kindly, when it's being done out of love and kindness and support and care, I think agents, when I go to them and if they see something that can be better, they're grateful. But if I'm always whining and complaining about something, they're not going to. So, you got to give it in doses of a lot of love, a lot of attention, a lot of respect,
Right.
a lot of recognition. And then when something's wrong, they want to get better. So
Mm.
to me, that's tamping down on drama. Time is a terrible thing to waste. And I do think now we've been given an amazing amount of time that we haven't had before.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible time to waste. And so that comes to one of my other things is conscious thinking about what you're doing. I think we made decisions 20 years ago that affect us today. That when we
Yep.
come home, we put our pajamas on, or we get a glass of wine out, or that we keep our phone next to our bed. And it's habits like that that are going to bring you down.
Mm.
If you start thinking consciously about all the decisions in your life, if when you came home you put your sneakers on because you were going to take a walk, if the
Mm.
next time you were in line in the ladies' room, you weren't on your phone on Facebook, but you started stretching or you
Yeah.
started breathing. You can make choices about every single thing you do.
Yeah.
Now, if I had been at the WomenUP conference, what I wanted to really talk about was my think time. People always ask me, how do you get so much done? How
Yeah.
do you get all the stuff done that you do? And first of all, I hate wasting time. When you don't have a TV at night, I mean, do you know how much it would be so easy to slide into? I'd go back and watch West Wing, Downton Abbey. We could all spiral into those things, or we could be listening to amazing podcasts, reading great stuff on Inman or Women Up. There are amazing things you can do with your time. Pick up a good book,
Yeah.
go to bed early and get up early. There's a million things to do, right? But one of the things that I credit my kind of rise to wherever the hell I am now is my think time. And I was going to take pictures of my think time because we don't give ourselves permission to think. My
Hmm.
think time might be on a yoga mat. It might be, I have a little thing in my shower for notes. I think great in the notes. I've gotten to
Shower
where I am
time is
today.
so creative.
It's
That's such a
it's so
great
creative.
point.
It's
So
so creative,
awesome.
right? But think about, I got here because I started to think about doing things differently. Go back to cheaper by the dozen. That guy attacked everything. How can I do it better? How can we do it a little bit smarter?
Right.
And my think time photos were going to be me on a bike, me on a yoga mat, me with a hand outside the shower writing on my little notepad. You know, um, that think time, you cannot show real leadership unless you're solving problems, reacting appropriately. And if you're caught in the chaos all day long, if you are caught in demand, constant phone calls, and you don't take time to think, you can't fix it and make it better.
So, so true.
Yeah,
It's like the working in your business and working on your
yeah,
business.
yeah.
It's that same kind of concept. So, what I think would be really fun, and to keep honoring our time frames and moving things forward, I would love for you to share your advice with the women and the men who are listening on mastering their universe. So weave those tips into, like, if they're wanting to walk into this and say, how am I going to level up in such a time as this with what you've learned? Like, speak into us, look deep into
I
that
think,
camera.
okay, authority is not granted, it is seized. If you want to be a
Amen.
leader, you have to decide. But first of all, you have to be able to deliver, right? You can't just call yourself the leader. You've got to distinguish yourself with ideas that people want to follow, right? And you
Yes.
gotta, so if you're tying this all together, get your think time, start to think differently, create new ideas that are doing things better and smarter.
Yes.
People will automatically follow someone who they feel like is thinking for them and creating a path for them. And I think that's how I got here, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my whole thing. Time is a terrible thing to waste. Have great think time. My third thing was be wicked nice, stand your ground, and know the difference between when you have to stand down. Right?
Oh, it's so
That's
good.
important too.
Yeah.
So good,
Make
Linda.
conscious decisions about everything you're making your day. Time is a terrible thing to waste. Don't screw it up. Wasting your time. That 4 or 5 hours that you're, the average person in America watches TV for 4.56 hours. That's a lot of time to move your business forward. In this time, there are going to be winners and losers, victors and people who wish they had. If I can say anything now, it's relentless focus. At Leading Edge, we have a morning 9:30 call on relentless focus. Everyone get an accountability partner and relentlessly focus and think about how to solve the consumer's problems, the seller's problems, the buyer's problems. Things can be done. And
That
that's
is beautiful
I love
advice.
that.
Oh.
I love that. And when you think it's seriously relentless focus, and I was going to ask you how not to get caught up in this chaos as we think about leading our companies and leading our businesses through what's happening with COVID-19 and what's happening in today's world with lockdowns and all of that. So what's the best advice for leaders in that regard? Besides relentless focus, because that is great advice.
Relentless focus is great. The other thing is Warren Buffett recently said he never makes buying or selling decisions or decisions based on today's headlines. Don't get caught up in it. Think long term. Continue to think about the big picture, where you're going, and stay on track. That's my best advice.
Wait, oop, I was muted. Love that. Love that advice, Linda. Thank you so much. Anything
You're
else for our
welcome.
community?
No, go forth and prosper. Relentless daily focus. I'm always available if anybody wants a little boost or a little bit of mojo. I love what you're doing here, and looking forward to your next event. Thanks.
I love
Thank you,
it.
Linda. And Linda's
Please.
in the group.
Yes.
Go ahead, Deborah.
Yeah,
Linda's
that's
in the
what I was
group.
going to say. Yeah, so Linda's in the group, as is Christine George, who many of you recall from the 2019 event. Christine and Linda work together at Leading Edge. So make sure you get connected with her. Linda, I know that you're going to drop in ways for people to get connected with you there. And you've got some fun things that you do throughout the year that I really would love the community to be able to plug into. So awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for being ready to go. Because that's how we roll around here. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
We appreciate it. All right, my dear. So we have Shannon Buss is here.
Awesome.
She's in the green room. She
Yay.
is, yes. We are all, this next conversation is going to speak to all of our hearts, because we're all having to have difficult conversations right now, whether it's with our agents, our employees, our families, our kiddos, each other.
Yeah.
and yeah.
Right. Well, it also segues from what Linda was saying, how, you need to be able to confront people and be open and honest about that. And so this is a great segue into Shannon's conversation about having those difficult conversations, but with heart.
Yes. Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm going to hide myself, bring her in, and loop us around to get us in proper formation. I'll be right back.
And Shannon, I will talk a little bit about Shannon. She lives in Newport, Rhode Island, born and raised Cape Cod. She is the practicing broker, and she is a practicing broker. She's been practicing in Rhode Island for 15 years. She's also the current president of the Rhode Island Association of Realtors. She's very highly involved in NAR, and we are so thrilled to have Shannon join us. Hi, Shannon.
Hi.
Hi, welcome. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
Sorry, we cannot be in person. Shannon was going to join us at our in-person event today in Boston. And she couldn't come to WomanUP last year because it was her installation for being 2020 president.
And I had won the raffle for a free registration.
Yes, you had.
The only time I ever won a raffle.
We'll see what we could do about that.
Here I am. So it's all good.
Yay. Yay. Okay, I'm going to get us in right position here. There we go. All right. Hooray. There we are. I love this technology. And we're using BeLive now for those of you who are wondering what we're using. What the heck is it that we're moving around and the squares are moving around? It's BeLive. Yay. Shannon, I'm so happy to see your face.
You too.
And I love that you have make waves above you because we call ourselves wave makers. Like, hello. How perfect. So when we did kind of the call out for stories and for what was on our hearts to talk about in Boston, you immediately said, I have this thing, this topic that I really want to talk about. And it was well before what we are going through right now.
Yeah.
Like I should say everywhere except for where I live here in the vortex of C19 in Seattle, but the world wasn't talking about it like they are now. And that is handling difficult conversations with heart. So, for those of you who don't know Shannon, she's in Newport, Rhode Island. And what did you tell me when I was there last time? Like you can drive across the state
in an hour or less.
In an hour or less.
Mm-hmm. I know.
I love these statistics, but it's so beautiful there. You were born and raised in Cape Cod. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have been so many different positions inside the association, nationally, state, Women's Council of Realtors, so many beautiful places where there are a variety of difficult conversations happening. So let's kind of talk about what are the important things that we can do in order to have a positive outcome in conversations, whether it's with a client or an agent or a fellow broker. Like, what are the most important things we can do?
Biggest thing, I think, when you need to have a hard conversation or a real heart-to-heart, make sure that you pick up the phone or have it in person, because text can be really misunderstood. I could write one sentence, 10 different people would read the same sentence and have 10 different interpretations of what I'm saying. Tone is completely missing from that. And a lot of times your conversation is dictated by your tone,
It's so true. Well, and so we can't be in person right now. Or I should say, at least here in my state, you have to be 6 feet away from each other.
Ours too.
But you know what? This is the same. You can see body language. You can see their face. So switch it to use Zoom.
Seeing someone's face and hearing their voice makes all the difference.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. No breaking up over text.
Yeah, exactly. Have a conversation, not a confrontation, right? Like for managers, that's really key because, it's similar when you're working with buyers and sellers. It's like, as realtors, we're dealing with multiple transactions at all times. We forget to slow down and remember that for that client, they have one transaction going on. And in our management life, it's really the same. It becomes like a deli counter. If you treat your conversations like a deli counter, they really become unproductive because
I've never even heard
that
it.
Connection. And why are you laughing at me?
No, I just never heard an analogy for real estate transactions.
The heart is not there. So I think, for starters, have a conversation and not a confrontation.
Well, and we're giggling at your analogy to the deli counter.
Yeah.
Oh.
We don't, on the West Coast, we don't necessarily talk about delis as much as they do on the East Coast.
I think it is an East Coast, West Coast thing.
Yes.
We're learning. We're learning.
Yes, we are.
You know what I mean.
Well, and the interesting thing that you're talking about here, and you've used the word emotion a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And we already know that in our industry, in this beloved industry, that we all serve in very different ways, that emotions are woven into transactions naturally. I mean, whether it's about money or am I making the right choice, or, you know, just what to expect, right? There's high emotion. So how do we as leaders curb our own emotions? Like, what are some ways that we can shift ourselves before we walk into those, what did you say, those conversations, not confrontations?
Right. So, I mean, it's important that we're having honest conversations, but it's important that we're having productive conversations. I think it's very helpful to sort of plan out what you're going to say. When we have hard conversations, kind of spur of the moment, they don't always accomplish what we intend them to accomplish. And it's harder to stay even tempered, I think, because we're not giving our full attention to the discussion. We're looking at that person and constantly thinking about what's going to come next. Am I missing something? You know, does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
It
So
reminds
focus
me
is
of
really
what
important.
It reminds me of what Tara-Nicholle was saying. You know, fear is rooted in the future and in
Deb,
the
I can't see your
past.
camera anymore.
Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
I can hear
Hello?
you. Oh yeah.
I don't think Shannon can hear me. Anyway, go ahead with the questions.
Watch your language. I don't mean that to be fresh, but, you know, be careful and courteous. For any of you that know Sherry Meadows from Florida, she, in her campaign speeches, would say very often, words can hurt and words can heal. And I think that's so true. You know, we have to
Yes.
watch what we're saying and how we're saying it, because I do think a lot of times we focus so much on what we're saying that we completely ignore how we're saying it.
Yeah. So to that point, like the words, choose our words wisely, and also pay attention to our tone.
Yes, 100%. And body
Yes.
language. If you're in person, body language matters.
Well, and you know, body language is a really interesting topic. So Kirsten O'Shields, who's one of the women inside our community, talks about, she doesn't really talk about it in the way that the world tends to talk about it, but she really does have, she's like, it's another language. It is another language. Like it truly has, we translate, you know, crossed arms, or, you know, hands on the chin. We translate those things in microseconds inside of our brains. And so, you know, it's very important too, that we're not being fidgety when we're talking, you know, when we're having difficult conversations, that we are calming ourselves down and paying attention to those words and paying attention to those tones. So that's about kind of our words, right? Our temperament, our emotions. How about on the other side of things? Like how do you create an environment, a culture, if you will, of positivity when you're constantly, I mean, you and I were going back and forth on text. Sarah and I have been going back and forth on text. These are two association executives who are both putting out fires all day long, trying to create the right paths for your membership.
Yes.
Like, and that's one hat each of you wear, right? So how are you keeping your committee members and your team positive as they're constantly coming into the ring with you? Oop, I hear an echo.
I think, you know, giving everyone a voice is huge. So, you know, no one likes to be told, they like to self-discover. So I think offering, you know, in your conversations and your trainings, your one-on-ones, offering solutions, but helping them to get there is really important, because the more people participate, the more they're going to own those ideas and want to have a positive outcome.
Oh, that's so good.
Thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I mean, you know, I think that sometimes the most effective and impactful are truly the simplest. right? I think we can, as humans, try to make things bigger than they are. That's the whole mountain over, out of molehills, right? And so if we just take it in little snackable bites and say, having real conversations, like you're saying, like really taking out the fearful emotion, right? Taking out those emotions that plant fear, seeds of fear. So we don't need that right now, right? I know that the California Association of Realtors just, was it last night or maybe yesterday during the day, released the new coronavirus contingency or the form. And it's like the world inside all of those conversations, like I'm going across the web looking at everyone's like, thank you, thank you, thank you. It gives me something to say. It gives me, words to say that don't instill fear. It's like, here's what we're going to do. And I feel like a lot of what you're saying is, if I guess if you're not vague and you offer that solution to them, here are the words you can use. Here's the process we're going to go through. I feel like it quells a lot of that, right? That uncertainty is quelled.
Definitely. And you can't be vague. When you're having a hard conversation with someone, I think, if we try to sugarcoat what we're saying, it dilutes the purpose of the conversation. Right?
Yeah. Well, and I think that in particular, women do try to do that. We try to wrap things in a hug, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just making sure our message isn't getting missed.
Right. Like I always like to clearly state what we hope the outcome will be, so that we agree we're on the same page.
I love that.
You can do the sandwich approach. You tell them something good. You tell them, deliver some sort of news that will be hard. You end it with another positive. There are lots of approaches to use, but making sure you have a shared vision so that you know what you're working towards. Because otherwise, there's no point in having the conversation. Right?
Well, and I think so often we forget to think about with the end in mind when we're starting, right?
Yeah,
I mean, when Sarah and I are planning out WomanUP and the conferences, one of the things that we do is we do a work back. We say, okay, so if we want our conversations to be for this year surrounded around taking action, right? We want to honor our suffragette sisters and celebrate the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment. And so if we want take action to be involved in every conversation we're having, then we needed to decide that now, so that then all year long, those conversations are happening. And the same thing can happen in a conversation or event planning or meeting planning at a broker's office if they're doing it virtually. What is the plan going to be? It makes it so much less stressful, right?
Definitely.
So good. So give us the skinny on what's happening in Rhode Island. Like I know you've been nonstop, as I mentioned earlier.
It's not skinny.
It's not skinny. It's huge.
I'm hopped up on vitamins and Girl Scout cookies right now. Yeah, I mean, we're just, our biggest thing is staying in communication with our members. We're the smallest, right? We have 6,000 members statewide, which I realize some local boards have that, in their locals. But to us, 6,000 is probably the most we ever had. We're pretty big. We're feeling mighty. But, how do we reach those agents? How do we make sure that they know what channels to check into and stay updated? How do we manage the anxiety? I think is the biggest thing. There's a lot of misinformation floating around already because people are making assumptions on, everything from here, we don't have escrow. It's attorney closings. So who's closing and who's not? Can the deeds be recorded at the town halls? Are the fire departments doing smoke inspections? Can the title searches be done? I mean, there's a lot of detail, and we're working on all of it. But the main thing is really getting in front of the membership right now to make sure that they're not panicking. That they know everyone's doing the best they can. We're all in the same boat. These are uncharted waters, and we're doing everything we can to navigate the membership, through all of this. So lines of communication are huge. I've given out my cell phone to everybody and said, please call me. Anything at all, just call me. If you just need to hear a voice, sometimes that's all it
Yes.
is. They just want to make sure that somebody is listening, you know. And we're keeping the channels open because we need to know what's happening out there in the field. While we as officers and staff are working on association issues, our boots are not on the ground to know what sorts of things are happening out there in the field, right? So
Yes.
just a delivery system for us right now. And it's been so great. I mean, I've gotten some phone calls from folks I've never met before, never had a conversation with, just real heart to heart conversations about family, about business, and you know, it's comforting. It's really comforting to know you're not alone.
That's so true. And when you look at the, of course, in my role inside the community, it's always like, what do we need as humans in times like this, right? What do we need as humans? Like the not the business side of us, but the soul side of us, right? That soul
Right.
part of us. And a huge part of that is knowing that you're not alone, knowing that there are other people who are going through it or have gone through it and are on the other side and can help you. And so I think what you're talking about right now is, if you don't have anything new to say, you should still communicate.
Right.
Still keep them informed. Maybe it's, just in case you missed my last update, here it is. How's everyone doing? That's okay. You don't always have to have brand new information to share. It really is about opening that door, making sure they know at any time you can knock, like, come on in, ask the questions. If you're feeling uneasy, you have a place to go. And I think that's part we forget about that because we're in go mode so much, right? We're putting out the fires, that sometimes it's somebody simply needs to hear that we're listening.
Oh, definitely.
That's
It's
beautiful.
so funny because you and Val Garcia came and spoke at my regional conference, and that's actually how we connected.
Yeah.
And the message of that conference was all about the human touch and bringing that human element into transactions. And honestly, that was such an experience for me. It really changed how I do business and how I communicate with other people. Meeting them at their level and not where we expect them to be
Yeah.
is really important.
Yeah.
Not everyone carries the same energy. Not everyone, goes at the same speed. There's all different things. But anyways, I think, one of the eye openers for me right now in dealing with the state issues um, has been just that human element, in speaking with agents on the ground. Instead of them calling me and saying, hey, Shannon, what are you doing for me? They're calling me and saying, how can I help? What do
Oh,
you need? And it's, God, my hair's just stood up because it just makes you really proud,
yes.
So,
That's so beautiful. Well, and when you are a state leader, when you're a president of a state association, you never know what your year is going to hold.
I thought I was getting a vanilla year. I said this time
You
I'm
never
getting
know
a
what your
vanilla
year is going to hold.
I never
And
get the vanilla year. This is my year. It's a hot market. Here I go.
yes. Well,
I
and
always get the unprecedented. It's all right. It's all right.
well, and Sarah, you're back on, by the way. Sarah works a lot with the the California Association of Realtors
Yes.
leadership. And so she's working a lot with Jeannie Radsick, obviously, and Jen Branchini, and working a lot with those leaders to do what you're talking about. And I know that you're working in Rhode Island on getting online clock hours, right? A certified, I don't know what you call them,
Well,
but
our licensing renewal period is right now, like 30 days from now. And so we've already extended that with the state, but you know, we've got lost income from all of these real estate schools, the association included. You know, that's the least of our worries, but we did take care of that.
Yeah, and can you hear me? No? Can you hear me, Deborah? Shannon? Yes.
Are you there?
I can
Yeah,
hear you.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
I think she can only hear
you
you.
know, there's a lot of different
weird.
layers to what's going
So
on,
weird.
and every state is a little different.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, there's some conversations that could be had in there. So what would be great is, in particular for the WomanUP community, if you could maybe, after you hop off the call, is put like a couple of the things that you are working on in your state, because there's so many states represented inside the community that someone might be going through what you're going through. And so, you know, extending.
Well, I mean, there's fair housing issues, there's contractual issues, there's, you know, oh my gosh, there's so many different things. But it's layered, and I'd be happy to put together a list. We have a comprehensive list of things that we should be thinking about, at least.
That's so great. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Shannon. Oh my goodness, I really appreciate it. And I know that you sent me some really great tips and you know, ways to walk through the handling the hard conversations. So we're going to put that up on the blog. So that everyone has access to that and can read those. And of course, for anybody who wants to get connected with Shannon, she's here on Facebook. So reach out to her. Please do not let the conversation stop here. If you've got questions for her, I know that she has a heart for collaboration. And so come on, let's come together, everyone, and have those conversations. So thanks again, Shannon. We really appreciate you being here.
Take care.
Okay.
Stay healthy.
Okay, Miss Sarah, can we hear you? Let's see.
Yeah, I don't think, it was so weird. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Every time I would talk, Shannon couldn't hear me. So I just was like, no, I'm not going to talk. It was weird. But we are doing a ton of stuff at CAR as well. And I just wanted to share that because I know a lot of the people listening are from California, and we're doing free webinars. We're doing legal webinars. There's one today at 3. I know I've got a lot of DMs about the new addendum, the COVID-19. It's actually called the coronavirus addendum in zip form. We are doing webinars on remote working. We're doing zip form webinars. We are doing, our amazing comms team is putting together a COVID, CAR COVID or coronavirus microsite that we'll share in the comments when it's live. Should go live tomorrow. And we're just trying to get, there's information that I've been trying to share in the group about emergency small business loans from the SBA. Information on open houses now in the San Francisco Bay Area, that's a non-starter, but in some other areas of the state and the country, it might be a good resource for you, and we'll share that outside of the CAR firewall if that's helpful. There's a lot of stuff on employment law we're trying to get out to our members. We're just trying to get as much information into the hands of realtors that could help as possible.
I love it. I love it. Well, and I know that at the end, we're going to, Leslie's going to join us again, and we're going to dig deeper into that with those resources and, you know, what you're hearing at a national level as well. So if those of you are like, let's do more of that, we're going to do more of that. We're going to have more conversations like that. Yeah. However, I'm so excited. We have the fabulously fiery redhead leader of Exit in the green room. I'm going to pop her into the stream, and then I will let you take the intro as I get us all in proper position. All right, Sarah?
All right. So Tami, as we mentioned earlier, she's the CEO of Exit. She is a well-known speaker in NAR, CAR, Women's Council, Inman, Riz Media, and so many others. And she is a wife, a mom of 3, a grandma of 3. She is certified lethal weapon, as she likes to say. She's a black belt in Taekwondo and adored by her agents. So Tami, yay, you're here. Tami, hello. Can you hear me?
Let me see if she can hear me. Hey, Tam, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know what
Ooh.
is going on. Sarah, you might
Okay.
want to pop out and come back in.
Pop out and come back.
Okay,
Okay.
but you can hear me.
I can hear you fine.
Yay!
Yay!
Finally.
Oh my goodness. You know what? We will prevail. She persisted and she is here. I love it. Oh my goodness. Well, as Sarah just shared a little bit about you and who you are, you know, one of the conversations I have loved hearing you share and like really refine over the last, seems like 2 years or so, is this conversation around, you know, finding your true north. And I feel like now more than ever, we need this conversation.
I could not agree more. And I cannot see your beautiful face right now for some reason, but it's nice to know you're there and hopefully you can hear me.
I can hear you. We can see you. Everything is good on our side.
Awesome, awesome. So first, I actually wanted to make a couple of statements in regards to your true north. I lived in a home that was really, really old, actually old enough in New England that it had King's Grant floors, which meant you needed a grant from the king to have floors that were that wide. It was that old. And it had a buzzer underneath the dining room table where the dining room table was supposed to be set. And it was told over time that it was actually supposed to be there so that they could ring for service. And it was for people that had a bunch of money to ring for service. But actually, it was used to ring for a warning because they had a hidden room in their home that they actually took in slaves. And it was just this magical thing that I always dreamt about. Imagine all the people's lives that were saved here. And slaves actually found their way at night north by following the North Star. And that's what actually took them into freedom. And it made me realize how much it takes us into freedom as human beings. If we find our true north, we are vibrating on a higher level, and everything, when you're in the zone, when you're in your lane, what you were put here for, everything starts to resonate and you really start to fine tune. And then a little over 2 years ago, 2 years this past January, we lost our son Shane. And it was a brutal time for all of us, and will always be a hole in my heart. And anyone that knew him would probably say the same thing. And we have a granddaughter, Esme, that I typically bake with on weekends or cook with on weekends when I'm home. And we have this unbelievable bonding. And about a month after Shane passed, everybody was still despondent. And we had this day that just didn't go well. And she's an angel for me. She is always good for me. We are kindred spirits. And I brought her back home and both of us felt crummy. And then she came back over that night, grabbed my hand and took me from the living room all the way back to our front room where we have this beautiful window seat. And she put an ottoman right in front of the window seat, turned on the light and whipped a speech out of her pocket. And she said, "Grandma, you're my true north. And I never want to disappoint you." And in that moment, I realized that I wanted to be her true north. And I wanted to be as many people's true north as I possibly could, that I could point them in the right direction. And that Shane would want that, not just in his honor, but to honor everybody that's here. And so I started really deeply focusing on how I could help others really discover their true north. People become what we tell them they can be. And so that's really how it got started.
I love that. And I mean, I've seen you share that story in person, and I've seen what it does in others around me, right? And I'm certain it's doing the same. Like you get the little goosebumps and you just think, oh my goodness, these little spirits in our lives, these little humans who we're blessed to have in our lives, they really truly do make such an impact. And I love that she triggered this inside you, this message inside you, because it's really helping so many people uncover their strengths, right? So how do you translate that? Like, how do you, when you're traveling across the country and the globe, helping people find their true north, how do you encourage them to uncover those strengths?
Well, first, I think that all of us were brought here for a special purpose, and we all have a few gifts, but most of us have a few really strong gifts. You know, you've always been helping women, and you, Sarah and Leslie, have always been helping other people, but WomanUP has brought something out in all of you that is, it's on that next level, right? And it's just such a higher tier, and you're so blown away when you get that opportunity to help someone. And so if people can put together, literally write down a list of what you really think you're good at, what you think that you're not that great at. um, I, I'm a martial artist. We had talked about that before. I have a killer sidekick, and I literally can do anything with that sidekick. And I lost a fight one time doing this crazy flying spinning kick, and I remember my husband saying, you know, why didn't you use the sidekick? And I just started laughing. I said, yeah, I used to do that, but it worked, so I quit. And
Oh my God.
it reminded me that we have certain gifts that we should be sharing with everybody, but also help by helping them uncover it. So if you put it together a list of what it is you're really good at, but also when are those times when you felt the best about yourself? Because usually there's a passion in that, and we're all on a journey and we're heading in a direction, and we're a work in progress, right? And
Yeah.
so we actually have an award. I have one in my office, and it's a bronze statue of woman creating herself, and it's a woman actually carving herself out of bronze.
Oh,
And we're all a work in progress, and every day we work towards getting better. And if we stay in those lanes that we're good at, we'll keep finding more and better. So when you put that list together and you start going back to one of those times that I was the most passionate, and then you start leaning in that direction. Esme, for a perfect example, she wants to help animals. Well, today she can help wounded animals that are in our yard, right? She can rescue a pup. She can donate money by saving up for things. But as time goes on, think of where that's going to escalate to. We
yeah.
have a gentleman that works with us, Rick DeLuca, who's probably one of the 50 most memorable people in the real estate industry. And he just started working with us and is directing the entire Pacific West. And I remember leaving the airport, I got the opportunity to meet with him and his wife to finalize everything. And he said, everything in my life has led me to this. And now I want to leave my legacy. And I want this to be my legacy. And I cried all the way back to my gate, just thinking how awesome that is, that he's going to actually be able to do that, that he's going to be living his legacy, and that this is going to be what it is. And I think that that's what starts to happen. I know that I've been always driven and always focused, but now I am so present. And that's it. It's that deliberate intent of being present when you're present, and really being aware of what are those gifts that I have. I'll give you a great example in real estate. We have a woman in Texas that was a widow at 50 years old, no life insurance with her husband, raised 6 kids, master's degree, but had been home for 20 plus years raising children. And she went out and applied for more than 1,000 jobs, sent in 1,000 resumes, and nobody called her back. And career counselors kept saying, you should be in real estate. And so she got into real estate, and she did okay until she found her true north. And now Saturday mornings, she gives a finance class for single women, whether they got divorced, became a widow, single parents. And she gives a class on finance and understanding how to find themselves. And so she's got a wolf pack around her. That's what they call it, of these people. They all work together as a team. And so they can help each other. So the single mom can be there for the soccer game and those kind of things. And it's just magic.
Yes.
And now she's doing more than triple the business, but she's giving back to her entire community. She's tied to a cause. And I believe every one of us needs to be tied to a cause, but it's got to be the cause we were born for.
That's so true, Tami. And like my mind, of course, is going a million miles a minute, as it always does when we were talking. However, what triggered for me is, well, 2 things. One is when you said, we were talking about your sidekick, and you said, it worked, so I stopped using it. And that we're always, it's a great reminder that it doesn't always have to be new. Like
Right.
this is really honing your craft and honing your message. I think the internet has been a great space for us to get connected and learn and grow in ways that we never have been able to before. But it's also incited this desperation to always have new content and be delivering new, when that's not what we're built for. We are built with that message and that mission, right? And so how do you keep your message fresh? Like, how, as a leader, I mean, I know, we all know you're on like 150 planes a year, you're all over, or maybe hopefully not so much now, but that you're giving your message over and over, right? You are sharing this message that's on your heart. How do you, as a leader, keep it fresh?
Well, I think that obviously you have to share new stories, right? And so you find out, you keep uncovering new stories of people that are having successes and even people that are having trials and how they made their way through it. You have to constantly refresh those stories. The
Yes.
topics are different too, depending on where you're going. I mean, I've had times when I've spoken 10 times in the same week and none of them have been the same talk, right?
Yeah.
Because it really depends on what that audience needs. But I also ask a lot of questions around the audience before I go to speak to get a feel for what it is that they really feel like they need.
Yeah.
Last week I spoke in Rochester, New York, and I felt like everybody was scared to death. Half the people canceled that were supposed to be in that room, and the other half were scared, right?
Yeah.
So a lot more of my talk had to do with courage and just having a conversation and having the courage to have those conversations. And it went down that path. I think you have to genuinely care and connect with the people that are in front of you. And I think that the internet has made it so that we can reach out to everybody, but we really need to make sure that we personalize that message and we put ourselves in the other person's shoes.
That's so beautiful. So before we end our chat, I'd love to know, what is one thing that everyone can do today and in the upcoming weeks when our schedules are shifted? We may have a little bit more time. What's one thing we can do to get closer to finding our true north?
This is the perfect time for education, right? So read things that interest you, go on websites that interest you, take classes that interest you, because each one of them will keep leading you more and more towards what it is you're supposed to be doing. If I'm in the water and my sail's pointed in the right direction, even if there's no wind, I'm going in the right direction. And so now we need to actually be that wind. It's a perfect opportunity to learn. It's a perfect opportunity to be able to reach out to people. I would reach out to people and talk to maybe your 5 closest people that you feel like know you the most and ask them to describe you and give you a handful of words that describe you. I did it a while back because I was really making sure that I was fine-tuning, going towards that purpose and direction. And it really does help you to see that what position you want to lead with, because every person in the real estate industry obviously is a leader because we're responsible for so much of the GDP. It's really, truly so much of human beings' wealth, but it's also where their home and their heart are. And so I think that you can just do a little bit more self-discovery and have some silent time. I know people get scared about that, but have some silent time. But I have to tell you, I'm starting to see a lot of great news across. China's closing down some of their hospitals because they don't have any more viruses, right? And they're starting to create medication that's working in India. And if we start spreading that all the way across to here, I believe that it'll be shortened by the time it comes here. So while you're home, yes, pay attention to the news first thing in the morning and end of the day so that you're aware of what's going on, so that you really are aware, but pay only attention to facts. And whatever you spread only a good word. Be the light for other people. Don't talk about missing toilet paper and missing chicken anymore.
Right. Amen and hallelujah.
There are people that are doing amazing things right now. And you're watching and actually people in real estate, check on all your people. The attorney, the surgeon general, the prior surgeon general wrote a book that's coming out the end of April. And the entire book is called Together, and it's on loneliness because it is the number one epidemic in our world. and that it's more dangerous than smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So if people are dying from loneliness, getting dementia from loneliness, creating anxiety from loneliness, this is the perfect opportunity to reach out to as many people as you possibly can. Reach out to those people you're really close to, get some descriptions of yourself so you can keep finding your direction, but reach out to those people and make sure that they're okay. What a perfect thing for when business does get back on track, that you'll obviously be back on track. But I believe it's going to be sooner than you think. And the more we spread, you can actually feel the vibration in this universe of that fear that people have. And yet, if we all reached out and did something good and we all shared something that was going on good, we'll keep lifting this vibration and taking the fear
Yes.
away. And we'll be focused on solutions instead of being focused on the problem.
Love that so much. Well, and you know, too, I love how you're encouraging everyone to reach out to others, right? Pick up the phone, schedule a Zoom call, you know, look at each other. And, you know, I've had coffee and wine with girlfriends, you know, every day this week. And, you know, there's a lot of us in the industry, I include myself. I've been training for this since 2012. Because
Right.
this is how I live in the in-between times, right? My life, my business is virtual. And so if there's anybody out there who's like, I don't know how to use Zoom, how do I get, you know, how do I work my camera? How do I have a conversation like that? You know, like hit me up for that, no problem. And start asking people for help, right? Because if I know how to do something, then someone else knows how to do something I don't. We can share, and really, like you're saying, shift the conversations, shift that vibration, and the concept of asking people how they see you. Like this is such, I mean, we don't see ourselves as amazing as our friends do, and we know that. And so I think that's a great piece of advice, Tami. Oh,
Well, and you know, even when you're off track and they can tell you're off track, all of a sudden you'll start to hear that there's more words that sound like, you know, driven, focused, and there isn't anything in there about compassion and love. Then you realize you need to dial it back a little bit, right? And you're a little too stressed and your elastic's too tight. But those people closest to you will be honest with you too, to tell you that too, so that you can keep yourself in perspective. None of us are that big of a deal, but collectively, wow, what it is we can do. And I think we just need to all really share that. This is a great time for discovery so that you truly can find your true north. What was I put here for?
yeah.
What are my special skills that I can deliver? What is my contribution
That's so
to
good.
this industry or to the people I'm surrounded by?
I love that. You know, actually, my personal tagline came from this exact exercise. So the whole, she speaks truth wrapped in grace with sides of sass, moxie, and fire. That was all built from the conversations you're inspiring. And so I would love to challenge everyone who's listening to this, whether you're listening live or you're listening to the replay, go through this process that Tami's talking about. Talk to your 5 closest connections and look for those words and create your personal tagline. What is it? What is it that can get you excited and fired up when you get up in the morning? I love saying mine out loud. I love typing it. It's like, yes, truth wrapped in grace, and watch out because you might get some sass or moxie or fire or all 3, but you know what you're going to get, right? And that's powerful. Oh, Tami, I wish we could talk for hours and hours. So for those listening who want more of Tami, they want to get to know you, they want to get connected with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Well, I have a website that's just simple, Tami Bonnell, but you can text 85377 and punch in TAMI. That's just the spelling of my first name. Hit send, and my mobile business card will come to your cell phone. If I can help with anything, just bouncing things off, a couple words of advice, or whatever you can think of, even, wanting to speak, absolutely, that would be great. I just wanted to end with one thing, and that is that I don't know if you can see this, but Simon Sinek, who wrote
Up
Start
a little
with
bit.
Why. Start with Why.
Oh, yes.
He also wrote a book called Find Your Why. And it has great exercises in there for people to be able to find their why. And there's actually a Discover Your True North book that is True North field book so that you can actually do some homework to really find what it is that you were put here for. But, all of us have passions and all of us have things that we want to do to change lives. Look at how many lives WomanUP is changing by just sheer exposure of you can be a broker owner, you can be a regional owner, you can be a CEO, you can be a CFO, or whatever it is that you choose to do.
Yeah.
But that exposure is what makes all the difference in the world, being exposed to things. And WomanUP is doing such a terrific job. You girls are just, my hat is off to you. You're doing such an amazing job in changing so many lives and opening up so many people. It's really great.
Well, we could not do it without you, Tami, and Exit stepping up and becoming a Diamond sponsor this year. We're so incredibly grateful for your leadership, for your partnership, for your sponsorship. It's a love relationship with you here. So thank you so much for sharing your precious time with us and your wisdom. I know that lives are changed. The comments are on fire. So if you have another couple minutes after you hop off to go and answer some questions and love on them, that would be fantastic. But thank you so much.
I would
for being
love
here.
to. Thank you so much. Love
Take
you.
good care.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
Okay, I'm going to bring Sarah back on. Let's see. Whoop, whoop. Can we see you? Can we hear you, Sarah? Hold on. Yay, I can hear you.
Yay. Hi. Whoa. I just love her.
I
love her.
Wasn't that spectacular?
Spectacular.
So I feel like I need to catch my breath a little.
That's how I've been feeling for 2 weeks, Deborah.
Yes, I know. Okay, so we have two amazing women who are joining us next. We have Katie Clancy and Molly McKinley. And then right after them, we have Bernice Ross coming up. And right after Bernice, we're bringing Leslie back. So we have 3 amazing segments to go. Please stick around if you can. I'm going to hop off and get the gals on and let you kind of introduce what we're talking about. And of course, what you might have missed, because for some reason we couldn't hear you. She couldn't hear you. So I'm gonna pop off. I'll be back.
All right. So right now we are spreading happiness and intention in real estate. And this is a conversation with Katie Clancy and Molly McKinley, part of our community. And they are in the green room ready to talk about, how we can spread happiness, how we can, in this time of utter chaos and uncertainty, what better conversation can we have? Hello, ladies.
Hi, guys. Hey, Katie.
Can both of you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
We had some technical difficulties. And Deborah, can we hear you?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Yep.
All righty. All right, so in one sentence, let's start with Katie and then go to Molly. Who are you?
Well, interestingly, you didn't have like a big intro, so nobody has any idea who we are. We could be anyone. No. So I'm Katie Clancy. I'm the happiest person in real estate, and my mission is to make real estate the happiest industry in the world. There's a lot more to me than that, but this is what matters in our conversation right now.
I love that. And Molly, you just actually shifted your camera, but you actually were surrounded by a rainbow for a moment.
I know. I was realized, I'm like, oh, I always seem to have that. It's very strange. I don't know what's going on.
I love it.
That's so funny. I know. I thought that's what you were giggling about.
It's your aura. It's your aura.
I love it.
About that. That's so funny.
Who are you? Who are you, lady?
Yeah. That's a loaded question. I'm Molly McKinley. I'm the CEO of a company called Intentionalities, and I also am the founder of a marketing services company, an intentional marketing services company called Redtail Creative, and am servicing clients like Rate My Agent and ReChat, who are also going to be huge supporters of WomanUP, which is a good thing. But, I think what is really relevant now in this moment is I'm also a yoga teacher, and I'm a 500-hour yoga teacher, and, have done a lot of study about intent and the power of thought and a focused mind. And, hopefully we can dig into some of that stuff as it relates to our businesses today.
And
So.
you led some really great conversations at our last WomanUP on setting intention, and we had like a introverts tea time. That was so great. Thank you, Molly.
A lot of great connections came out of that, and again, like sometimes we think about things have to be big and expansive, but sometimes these intimate, quiet moments are really truly where the most profound connections happen. And so just want to make sure that everybody remembers that, things don't have to be shiny all the time to be impactful.
So
Yes.
true.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. So I would love to ask Katie, what makes you the happiest person in real estate? I like this. I love this claim that you have.
Well, here's first of all, like, fight me for it. Anybody, yes. I invite the world. I listen, I don't need to own it. I'm not, I'd love to see sort of like a round robin. Let's see who can really get the title. What makes me the happiest?
How do we fight you if we're social distancing? I mean, really.
My elbow?
Yeah, I guess. So, well, first of all, here's one of the things that makes me happy.
Yeah,
exactly. Baby.
And then Boo's over here somewhere, and they may jump in a minute. But I didn't tell you much about really actually who I am. And part of the reason I am the happiest person in real estate is because at one time I was probably the most unhappy, miserable, dark, depressed, really dark, not good place. I won't go into all of the details, but I will tell you that it happened in the financial crisis. I came into real estate at probably the worst time ever. So if anybody's getting into real estate right now, it gets better. And I started with the best plans. Everything was great. And within 18 months, I had a surprise baby. All the markets crashed. My husband's business went under. We almost lost our house. We almost got divorced, got pregnant again, lost it late term, and was ready to, I really was in a bad place, and realized that I couldn't help myself. I hated the idea of being a victim. So I said, I will not be defined by what happens to me. And this is so important for right now. I will not be defined by what the world does to me. I will be defined by what I do in the world. And I think we all need to take a little bit of that. You're not the person who survived the COVID epidemic. That's not who you are. You're the person who, now fill in the blanks. Who do you want?
Oh, I love that.
Who do you want to be right now? And that puts you in a power position. And I have no patience. I'm going to tell you right now, no patience for victim mentality. I may be the happiest person, but I can be a biatch when I'm hearing stuff I don't want to hear. Right? Like, come on, guys, because if I know what it feels like to be out of control. I know what it feels like to feel like I have no choices and things couldn't possibly get worse. And then they do. I know. So, and I was able to come out of the victim mentality there. And you can too, by choosing to, and the choice I made was to be a blessing to other people. And this, I don't know where that came from, because I was so snarky. I did go to church at that time. It was the time I decided to go back to church. But I came in with a boulder on my shoulder. Like, are you guys hearing me okay?
Yeah, and that, you know what, I think, Katie, what I love about what you're talking about is the circumstances that surround us don't define us, right? That it truly is how we decide to walk through seasons like we're in right now. And so when you look at around you and you're seeing, or you just like open Facebook, and it's like fear, death, fear. Like, what do you, how are you sprinkling your signature happiness in those conversations that in a way that we as a community can follow suit? Like, what are your tips around that?
Very first thing, number one, is feel your feels. If you're freaking out, and like I posted something the other day, my favorite quote, which is, there is the Martin Luther King quote about there's more to see about a person in times of challenge and controversy than it is just in comfort and convenience. You really see what you're made of. And so right now, your response, and I speak to everyone, your response to this Corona stuff is going to define you. When you're under pressure, we find out who you really are. The great news is, it's okay. Like, who are you being right now? Okay, if you went and you bought too much toilet paper and kind of freaked out and blamed somebody and got angry or responding in a really fearful way, just check in, be like, look at me freaking out. Take a breath and make a new choice.
Yes.
Because that's not really a great choice. That's not helping you. It's not helping anybody else. You understand, just like when you put your hands out when you're going to fall. Okay, great. You punched someone in the face when you did that. So you're going to want to clean up that mess. And then obviously you're trying to break your own fall, but like, let's try to do something better now. Let's make a new choice. Let's get under control. And here's the other thing. There is opportunity for you in chaos. What's that, Molly? What's that thing about the Chinese symbol for chaos? Like,
Yeah.
isn't it like opportunity?
Yin and yang, you mean? Is that what you're talking about? Like the balance of the harmony?
Something. I don't know. I'm misquoting, but the spirit of it is that, and this is how I felt when the hit the fan in my life. When all your balls are up in the air, the beauty of it is that you get to grab them and decide where to put them as they're coming. Right?
Yes.
That's it.
Yes, I love it.
Co-creating.
Love it. Love it. And I love how you're saying feel your feels and opportunity. And I think going back to what Tara-Nicholle was talking about in the beginning is how do we set our intention? Because it is about flipping a switch. We have to intentionally do that, especially in times like these, right? So Molly, can you teach us, school us on setting that intention?
Yeah, I can. So remember, intent is focus. That's at the heart of what it is. It's focused thought. And intentionality is a philosophy about the power of focused thought. But when we're really talking about intention, we are talking about focus. And unfortunately, the world that we've been living in has been so distracting and so noisy. It's been very hard for everybody to focus on anything. So the silver lining in this very moment is the fact that we have a moment to pause and to reset, to slow down, and to actually learn those skills of focus so that we can actually start to move into the role of co-creation, which is where our thoughts guide our actions, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of a beautiful moment in a lot of ways. I mean, again, the chaos theory of, things, kind of being wild so that we can reset and create something that is more aligned with our each individual highest goods. So, I love you. All these sounds are like, oh.
I'm soaking it in.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. So, here's the deal. And Tami was alluding to this, and I love it. And I don't know if she has a yogic background or not, but the philosophy is the same. When you know yourself, right, that is a niyama of yoga, which basically is self-study. And there's lots of ways that we can get to the root of who we are. And just the particular, parts of my own life is that I got to totally reset and rebuild, 10 years ago. I got to rebuild, and I burned my entire life down to the ground, and I got to rebuild it just the way that I wanted to. And so that act of hardship, right, that integrity, right, where the grit comes in, is when we can really do the work of figuring out who we are. And that's really important because before we move on to focus practice, we need to understand what it is we want to focus on, what's missing in our life, what we want to manifest more of. And so we can really have directed thought. The visual or the metaphor I like to imagine is we are all hardwired with a certain amount of energy, but most of us live as a light bulb and our energy is just sort of diffused, right? But when we can learn to focus our effort on that singular thought, we become the laser beam, which is when we can push through and burn through mountains or whatever is in front of us. And so the work is to how do we learn to take our energy and pull it in, align it with our highest goods, so that we can then project and push forward and as a laser beam instead of sort of wasting energy that we've been doing for so long.
Well,
So,
and what I love about, I wrote it down so that I wouldn't forget exactly what you said. You talked about how our thoughts, we're finally in a place where our thoughts can guide our actions. And in real estate, it's traditionally a very reactionary industry, right? We are putting out fires all the time. Something's happening and we're in reaction mode. And it's such a beautiful way to flip that conversation for within us first, right? Like where do I want to go? What is my message going to be? We actually have a moment because people aren't sitting around waiting for what's next. We're all trying to figure it out. So we have the opportunity to slow down. Do you have an exercise or some kind of a resource for those who seriously have never tried to do this before?
yeah, I sure do. I think first of all, remembering that the word ritual is the root of spiritual practice, right? So anything we do is a repetitive repeat. We are training the brain, right? It doesn't just happen overnight. It's a ritual. It's a thing that you do over and over again so that we build that muscle of intent.
Yes.
But, a very simple yogic practice to learn to focus the mind is when you're sitting there just quietly and you bring your attention to your mind screen, just allow some sort of imagery to cultivate in your mind screen, whether it's a red balloon or, something just very, very simple. And you just hold your focus there on that image and you hold it and hold it and hold it. And you'll notice the balloon will start to jump around in the brain, it will go over. And you just try to pull everything that you can to focus on the red balloon. And then you shift it to, an orange or whatever. But we're really trying to be able to learn to cultivate that inner vision and then hold it, right? Reading a book actually exercises the eye muscles as well as the brain muscles, and we're learning. So what's the single best thing you can do to strengthen the brain? Read a physical paper book. These are the things that our children aren't doing anymore, and I can't tell you the last time my children have picked up a paperback book, but this is that executive level functioning. It's that the parts of the brain that we really are required to do that higher level thinking. And we just don't really have that muscle exercised.
Oh, I think that's beautiful. So I know in all of the Moxie chats I've had on the Fire Up podcast and a lot of the podcasts that all of us have either been on or hosted, we usually ask what book are you reading or what's on your nightstand? And it's usually a pile of books. So that's a great way to take action. Stop trying to consume everything on your phone. Pull out a book.
Yes. You're strengthening your eye muscles, which will enable you to focus, and your brain. It's really important work.
Do you have a recommendation on a read? So you talked about, there's a lot of chaos and noise right now. And I loved your practical advice on the balloon. I was actually looking around because my kids were playing with the balloon yesterday. I was going to pull it out.
Wow.
But as a prop. But are there any go-to reads that both you and Katie can suggest for our community in this time of utter chaos?
Go for it, Katie. You can go. I'm like, you go. I've been chatting.
Molly's one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, and we're a really cool package. Because we're the same in lots of ways and we're different in lots of ways. Because I think the book that I would suggest would be totally different from the book that Molly would suggest. And my book is, I just got it in the mail. I had pre-ordered it and it finally came in. It's the only thing Amazon's shipping. is a book about, like, a tactical book about something where I can take control of something. I'll give you the title of it in a second, but the point of it is I get this book and it tells me what to do. And then it helps me be, because I can go do some things. I'm like, I did a thing. I made an impact. I'm in control. I am not at the mercy of anything. And that, as you can tell, is very important to me, but it's important to all of us when we're feeling like things are happening out of our control. If there's something that we can control, then we're drawn to it. And so the book that I just got was Donald Miller's new book, Marketing Made Easy, Simple, Marketing Made Simple. I can't remember the title. It's upstairs. He's the one who wrote Building a Story Brand, which, if you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend for everybody around marketing. And I think I'm pretty good at marketing. This sharpened my saw, but most importantly, it gave me things to do, something to execute on, something to make a difference in my business in a time, especially when I don't know what to do. Great, got the book, do the thing. So that's what I recommend.
I love that.
Any book like that would give you the steps to take control of something.
Well, and as we're getting ready to shift to Molly's book, what I would love to suggest, and I just left this comment in the stream, is that start sharing, drop in the name of the book you're reading, the link. If you can go and grab a link that will help us, that would be great. But drop the books that you're reading into the link, and we'll compile those into a document here on the group so that we can all start sharing and talking about it. And, you know, I know that there's been small groups that have, broken off and started doing book clubs inside their brokerage office. So this is a great opportunity for the leaders out there trying to figure out, what am I going to do? How am I going to bring my people together? There might be a book on that list that will trigger something inside you that you want to read with your team. And you could do a book club, virtual book club, using Zoom while everyone is away out of the office. It's a great way to keep the connection, the human connection. And also, like Molly's saying, work the eye muscles, work the brain, do all the things.
Alyssa Hellman and I actually had a book club all last year on Facebook, and it was a blast. And it kept us right on. I read more last year than I ever have in a 12-month period.
Accountability.
So,
and now we have time. We have time now.
Yeah.
Well, it's chaotic in my house, but not everywhere.
Yeah, I'm a super reader. So I think the book I would recommend, if people are looking for the why right now in their own life, I think people are starting to dig deep and, like, why was I born? What am I here for? What is my purpose? Those are my people. I love when people that seed of questioning starts to open up. These are those times when we ask the big questions. I would recommend that you read a book called A Walkthrough for Westerners. It's a Bhagavad Gita. For me, the first time I read that book, it's like my mind blew up and like my world expanded. I've read it like 4 or 5 times. Those of who are interested in basics of yoga, there's a really great book that our friend Bondalyn Jolly, who's also a WomanUpper, she recommended called How Yoga Works. Check that out. It's a beautiful little story. And the book that I just finished is called Braiding Sweetgrass. And one of the beautiful byproducts of, this whole experience is that people are looking back into nature and this idea of reconnecting to our planet and our relationship with our planet. And Braiding Sweetgrass is like a hymn to this world that is the most majestic words. I mean, my whole book is just covered in yellow highlighter because someday this is a speech that I want to write. But this woman, she's a mix of science and I don't know, she's just brilliant.
Yes.
So Braiding Sweetgrass is one if you're interested in sort of reconnecting to the grander scheme of things.
I love that. If you follow Deborah, she's been definitely doing that.
Yeah.
On her morning walks.
Well, so many people. I mean, that's the best thing about Facebook, right? Is, and from the very moment we can walk, we're put in a pair of shoes and we actually disconnect ourselves from our planet. And so it's interesting that while we're disconnecting from each other, we're reconnecting to nature. I think there is going to be, again, if we're intentional about it and we move into a role of co-creation, we are, the power, it's up to us. And I actually say, like, when we see like the dogs and the babies and all of the things, like, we're actually, as women, like, the rules are changing. You know, the new norm is not us trying to feel bad for and trying to put on our game face while all of life is happening, right?
Yep.
We all get to show up exactly who we are and as we are, and that's really, really cool. So I'm just imagining the level playing field being super level now.
Beautiful.
Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that, you know, the interesting thing about the weaving your two messages together, the, you know, spreading happiness and being intentional is so needed right now, right? We can choose to be happy. We can choose to be intentional. There are moments where we're going to have to feel feelings that aren't happy, but we don't have to live in those feelings, right? We can choose to be intentional about doing other things. And for those of us who have been doing the virtual business for so long, that taking the walks and taking the photos, I can say from my perspective, it is such a beautiful thing to see photos of people on their walks as opposed to pictures of boardrooms. I can't even tell you. Like it's my feed has totally changed because of that.
It has.
And it's such a beautiful thing. So keep it coming, you know, share those moments where you're filling your soul tank. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with claiming that time. I was talking about it in my blog post last week about let's not let our commute time that we used to invest to get to our job be taken up by our job. Like let's really infuse self-care into that time. Let's take more walks. Let's read more books. Let's meditate more. Let's spend more time in the Word, and filling our, as I love how you say it, Molly, fill your own cup, right? Fill your cup. Like
Fill the cup.
Now is the time.
Go. Perhaps.
Yes, it is well with my soul.
I love it.
Oh no! Don't be sad. You have company.
My cup is empty. I need to fill it.
I can help you with that. I'll send you some tea.
Oh, I love it. Oh goodness, ladies, thank you so much.
You.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You guys,
Sure, this is awesome.
yeah.
Yay.
And please be sure before you leave the stream to drop in ways that these attendees at our community can get in touch with the two of you. You know, whether it's to have you come speak at their events or to order some beautiful tea or to connect on their marketing needs.
Guys, which way? This way. I put them right way. There we go.
There we go. I love it. All right, ladies. Mwah. Have a great one. Thanks so much for being here.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you guys.
Virtual hugs.
Virtual hugs. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What a blast. All right. So now we are bringing in two of our industry mavens.
They're amazing.
And they've been so patient.
Yes.
I've been seeing Bernice shake her head and in the green room. So I'm going to bring Ms. Bernice. I'm going to unmute them so that we can hear their beautiful voices and their brilliant minds. And here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom, boom. Yay! Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Oh, I can hear you. I can see you. Oh, how about you, Leslie?
Oh, good.
Oh, good. Excellent. Wow.
Amazing.
I'm catching my breath again.
Day.
Oh my goodness. Amazing day. Amazing day. And so for those of you who, well, I'm sure most everybody knows who Bernice is. Bernice, you know, obviously I have written things about you, but I'd love for you to introduce yourself to those who might not have met you yet.
Let me make this very short. I got into business when I was in my 20s because I was teaching and I didn't have any to pay for my condo and they canceled my summer school classes. And lo and behold, I discovered real estate. I became a trainer for John Douglas Company and sold actively for 20 years. I've been a broker for over 30. And I started doing a conference called Awesome Females in Real Estate back in 2007. We're going into our 14th year. Leslie was there with me on day one. Sarah joined, I think it was about 2011 or 2012. And to me, this is the most important legacy that we have, the four of us that are sitting here right now, is making this difference to the industry for women, not only just in terms of getting more women into the industry, but getting more women to have quality lives that really reflect their values and who they are.
Oh, beautiful.
I couldn't agree more. You were the spark that lit the flame. How do I say this? I always say this to Bernice. She was the spark that lit the flame under me. Mwah.
I love that. And I know so many women in the community feel the same way about you, Bernice. And so I know we talked about a couple of different topics to talk about. As you've heard what we've talked about today, where's your heart? I mean, we could talk about mentoring, but where's your heart? Like, what do you want to speak into us?
About virtual mentoring right now. And the reason, I mean, what has been going on for almost the last 2 hours now is virtual mentoring. We can't be together face to face, but we can be together in venues like this, and we can learn from others by watching what we're doing. We've always done this, but now's the time, especially for those of you in leadership, to reach out to the people in your networks and to be that voice. And if you're an agent, reach out to your clients, your sphere of influence, and be that voice that, I took so many notes today about, just like the last conversation we had about being all the different ways that you can contribute back to your community and not get caught up in the what's wrong. I wrote it. I've been working on an in column, and there's part of me that wants to go down the path of, well, gee, this is what can happen to the business. I mean, we don't need to go there. And that was a huge takeaway for me. We need to focus on what we can do, make a plan, and do it. I think super simple advice. Focus on what you can do, go do it, because that gives you a sense of control.
So I love that obviously, we all share a passion for mentoring, right? We've got the mentoring platform here in the Facebook group. We've had lots of discussions about it on the WomanUP stage. And you in particular have done a lot of research for the WomanUP community over these last few years. And I know that you were saying to me, oh my goodness, Deborah, there's some fantastic takeaways around mentoring. And so when we turn on the camera, what are we seeking in mentoring? What should we look for? Like, give us your wisdom on this concept of mentoring that we're going to step into virtually or otherwise in the future.
Well, when you think about most of the time, unless you're being mentored by, I think we need to look at the different types of mentoring. So let's start with what many people think of. It's someone who is perhaps senior to you, who takes you under their wing, and they're going to mentor you, and you're inside of the company, okay? Or maybe you're not inside the company. It's someone that you've met through the chamber or through some other organization, and you do have a connection, but they are someone who can help you with a specific challenge that you're facing or help you grow in your leadership. And I think one of the big takeaways from the WomanUP research is that some mentors are, the woman who was my mentor for 35 years was a woman named Marilyn, and she died recently. But, sometimes we'll have these lifelong mentors, or there will be someone who comes in, is in your life for a brief period of time. You get one or two things from them, and they come and leave. So it depends on what kind of relationship it is. And I want to go back to, I was chewing on some of the things that have really kind of been focused, two things that I've focused on. I was thinking about this last night that have really impacted how I look at my business. I worked for John Douglas Company for 18 years. I ran their training. And after one of our competitors ripped off the training that I spent a year writing on in tears, Jack Douglas said to me, Bernice, the copycats will always try to imitate us, but if we're 6 months ahead of the competition, we'll dominate the market. Well, for me, that's meant, I've been out there on the bleeding edge, but that one piece of advice has determined how I've lived my business now for 25 years. So that one line. And the second one, and this came from Marilyn and from my husband, and I knew it instinctively, But when it comes down to it, it's not about me. It's about the other person and what I can do to support and be of service.
Yes.
And if I had come into my speaking role, say 20 years ago, I've been around forever, but it would have been about ego, and that's when, you've got the big celebrity, trainers, and there's an meeting show going on. And Marilyn and Byron really helped me to understand that. It's really about the service. And if you only help one person, Marilyn will say this, it does make a difference how many people in the room. If you help one person, you've done what you came here to do. So
I love that.
I've lived by. And that's not wisdom from WomanUP, but it's wisdom that really encouraged me. And as a result, what I've tried to do in my own, when I work with someone who's part of our group, I want to be there to be a service, first of all. How can I help you?
It's so beautiful. Before we go on, Bernice, there's a bit of like airy echo on your sound. I'm wondering, are you using a headset? And if you aren't,
no, I have a professional mic. I don't know why it's doing that. It never does
yeah,
it.
It's really interesting. I've never experienced that with you. So, all right, maybe it's just on my end, but I want to make sure that everyone can hear you. So, all right, I love this concept of there's different types of mentors, and you started to share that one might be someone who's senior to you, right? And that senior could be senior to you in your career or senior to you in age, right? Because your boss could technically be younger than you, right? And farther along in their career if you've made a pivot. What other types of mentors can we or could we be looking for?
Well, what we're seeing right now is, of course, peer-to-peer mentoring, where we're helping each other. And that's, that's something, and that could take the form of one-on-one, where you just have maybe someone that you work, who's another, if you are a owner broker, when you meet another owner broker, your different parts of the country share your resources. The second thing is, you can also have mastermind groups, which a lot of people are members of. So these are ways that we can have peer-to-peer mentoring that are really effective. Now I want to go back to the senior mentoring thing for a second. There's an offshoot of that. It's called having cheerleaders, and this came out of this year's research. These are the people who maybe their family, a friend says, you've got this, you can do this.
I love that. And peer-to-peer, I think that is so incredibly important. I think there's a big element of that inside the WomanUP community for sure. And so for those that are listening, utilizing tools like Zoom is such a great option right now. And even so I know they've extended or kind of lifted the 40-minute ban for so many of the accounts right now, which is great. But even if you don't have an account that was affected by that, you still have 40 minutes of free time using Zoom that you can have a multitude of people on. So if you are battling something, go to that group, go to that peer group, and start those conversations. You can even start the conversation on the WomanUP group saying, does anyone have best practices around this and want to hop on Zoom? I mean, utilize the group for that while we're all using this time so wisely. I love that, Bernice.
And what else I would suggest is FaceTime. If you have an iPhone, which most of us do, FaceTime or WhatsApp to do one-on-ones. And I'm hearing so much background noise, and I know our community is mentioning it too. So maybe we can mute Bernice for right now and see if that helps.
Yeah, it's definitely coming.
Bummer.
Yeah. Yep.
Something's going on with her microphone, I think.
Yep.
So Leslie, hi. Can you hear us okay? Leslie, you want to do a test?
Let's see.
You can't hear me?
We can hear you now.
Yes.
So maybe, well, let's have a conversation. Bernice, do you want to pop out and come back in? Because that definitely helped Sarah's. Perfect. Yay. All right. So, my goodness. Leslie, what have you been thinking? Holy smokes.
So Leslie's a mentor of mine.
I've been thinking during this discussion of mentoring how much I have learned from young people. And, I grew up, came of age in the 50s and the 60s, and there was a right way of doing things. And then I lived in Philadelphia and got married into a Philadelphia family. And that was even more, this is the way you do things, right? And when you mention a couple, the woman's name always comes first, and you never stack dishes when you're clearing the table, and you don't send RSVP cards when you're inviting someone to a wedding. You don't, there's things you don't do. And as I've gotten older and as I've kind of embraced not only, my kids, but, Sarah and the people I work with that are younger, I'm really seeing many of those as maybe a little bit quaint and certainly not inclusive. It's like, this is the right way to do it because, history is written by the winners. And even this whole idea that, well, we only hire people that went to a top 10 school. I mean, think of all the brilliant, talented people you're missing when that's the attitude of your HR company. So I think that is one of the things I'm really proud of. I'm really happiest about in my life is get to a point where I now can look at some of those rules and social guidelines and say, that was then, this is now. And now is so much better, that you can be vulnerable and you can be honest and people can use different fonts and have RSVP cards, and it's not the end of the world. In fact, who sends cards anymore? I still will never stack dishes when I clear the table. But other than that, I've really realized that we need to embrace there are different ways of doing things, and your way is not the way. And in fact, you become so much richer when you hear other people's lives, other people's stories, other people's experiences. So just to answer your question honestly, that what was going through my mind when I was listening to Bernice talk about mentoring.
Beautiful. I love that. I didn't know you couldn't stack dishes.
No, you don't do.
Is that something you learned from that family? I mean, I've never heard you tell the story.
You do not ever stack dishes. No. We can have this offline, or you can Google it. It's a real thing. Okay.
We believe it. I believe it. Definitely. And that goes to the different generations, right? I think.
Yes.
And some of the traditions have stuck and some of them haven't.
Exactly. And that's the way the world should be, right? We should evolve. I remember, I guess sometime in the 90s, there was this one wonderful book called The Killer App. And I remember the chapter where the title was something about the tools to find what we do. And one of the examples was Charlemagne going to China, where they had stirrups for their horses, and Europe didn't have that yet, And so Charlemagne brought back the stirrup, and it changed how effective the cavalry could be because they could now stand up on their horses and throw their spears. I've just always thought about that, all the different stirrups that we have today that we didn't have, before.
Like Be Live and Zoom.
There you go.
Hey. And we at CAR have gone 100% remote. As of today is fully 100%. Our offices are fully virtual. And we've had to, scramble and learn new things from our peers that have taught us how to do Zoom, and learning from Deborah on Be Live. And so we're adapting, we're flexible, and this day has been just so much goodness. I loved all of the different, pieces of advice. I love the flipping the switch. I've been sharing this quote from Maya Angelou about, it's not what happens to you, it's how you react to it. And Katie Clancy was on point with that as she was singing to me. I would just love to just maybe wind down a bit and say what we can do, each of us can do to, keep that momentum going, and would love your feedback below, and DMs and tell us how we can continue this virtual hug, mentoring, connecting environment. Maybe Leslie, do you want to start? Do you want to share?
Well, it looks like we're not going to have time for me to go through everything that's happening in the markets, because honestly, it's changing by the minute. But I have posted on my Facebook, and I know Sarah has posted with WomanUP our weekly summary of all the economic markers that we're watching, and what they mean. So I would stay tuned for that, and I would go to the National Association of Realtors. They have a lot of information there. There's a video from our president, Vince Malta, and then very specific information on if you're going to do an open house, what to do, what is COVID-19, how, just from soup to nuts. So there's a lot of resources out there. And then I'm always reachable online on WomanUP and so on, if you have any questions or suggestions, anything like that.
I love that. I love that. And I think that, we will have more opportunities to do more of these. And so I think that what we need to really be doing to help Leslie is ask questions. Like,
yes,
ask questions, drop the questions in here. If you don't want to leave them on the mainstream, direct message us so that we can get them to Leslie. That her heart, obviously you can hear it, is to help you communicate clearly with your communities. So if you're getting question after question after question and you don't know the answer, ping Leslie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. How about you, Bernice?
I just can't thank you enough for putting this together, because we didn't have a chance to have the event in person. And for me, it's like we have to pivot. And if you haven't read Gary Keller's book, Shift, I was in conversation with him via email yesterday. And right now is the time he says we've got to work together, and we have to be focused on what we can do to support our clients. Reconnect with your database of people and be there as a resource to help them, just not in real estate, but in anything else that they may need. Because as realtors, we have tremendous connections. Let's take advantage of those. And right now is not the time to be commission breath predatory about what's happening. Instead, it's how can we be of service, which is what I was saying earlier. Again, how can we serve the people we're blessed to serve?
So beautiful. And what I'm loving about what you're both talking about is that the coming from service, right? Like, how can we serve you? How can we help you? And then taking that to the next step is those of you who are listening and are participating in the stream, who can you serve? Like, what do you know? What best practices have you nailed at this point that is really working inside your brokerage that you can share and help others? It's such a beautiful time for that. I think that's so beautiful. How about you, Sarah?
I'm muted.
Oh. I was like, do you want us to read your lips? Uh-oh. You're muted again.
Well, we can't hear you.
What?
Go ahead.
Hold on. You're good. We can hear you now.
Yeah, and Leslie is working on our forecast. I think what we need to just remember is that we're all just taking this a day at a time. And we're here for each other, and we're here to answer questions. And I actually need to hop off and feed the meter because they're waving at me saying I'm hungry. So
feed the meter. I love it.
Little London. I'm thinking of Little London at this moment.
Yes.
But I think it's really just being able to, give everybody grace and flexibility. I think that's key. And yeah, I just am grateful for our time together today. It's been really beautiful.
I love that. I agree. All right. So to put a bow on it, and bring us all together. I think that we've heard some beautiful advice today. I know Sarah was taking notes. I'm taking notes. Everyone's taking notes. So what I would love to encourage everyone to do is share your biggest takeaways from today. Write about them on your own blogs. You can send them to us. We'll publish them in, a group blog post on our website. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's not let it stop here. So drop in links to things that you might have shared in the past, to things that you're going to write in the future. Connect with one another here. If you're looking for something fresh and valuable to share with your community, we're here for you. We are here for you in any way possible. If we can't fulfill it ourselves, we will find somebody in the community who can help you, whether that's mentoring or helping you write a wild addendum. We'll get you connected with the person in your state that can help out. I thank you. Really is the very last thing. Is thank you so much for everything that you've done as a community, for wrapping each other with hugs and healthy virtual hugs, and keeping the conversation going. Yes, and using jazz hands when we meet. Yes, yes. So keep the conversation going. We love you all. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.